Okay, so now we're down to layer 2, the second to the last layer. We started with the application layer, and now we're all the way down to the data link layer. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what this represents. And in the previous video, I talked about this briefly. This deals with MAC addresses. So this deals with our physical addresses on our systems, and let me go ahead and highlight them since I have them down here. And remember, when we're talking about MAC addresses, we're talking about interacting with switches, because switches deal with MAC addresses, and that's how they send information back and forth with their MAC address table. So the main point to take away from this is that this is all about communication on a local area network and making sure packets of information going across the network are received on one device to another. And we're dealing with our MAC addresses, which is our media access control address. Now, one thing to understand is that when we're dealing with a network, we're dealing with routers, and we're talking about communication across wide area networks. When we're dealing with the data link layer, we're talking about MAC addresses, and we're talking about sending data across our actual local network. So this is important to understand because we have two different layers, and one layer deals with one aspect of network communication, another layer deals with another aspect of network communication. And as we move down the stack, we are going to talk about our very last layer, the physical layer. And so this is important because once we get down to here, the data link layer, the next layer down is our physical layer, and this is where this is going to interact to send data across the wire. Now, one last thing that I'm going to say about this is that we usually call the data link layer the switching layer. And so this makes complete sense because when we're talking about switching, we're talking about interacting with switches to send data across the local area network with MAC addresses. So now that we know what the network layer does and the data link layer does on our media access layers, let's go ahead and talk about the physical layer, our very last layer in the OSI model.